So the Culinary Academy, this is a joint labor management partnership between 26 of the largest employers in Las Vegas and the Culinary and Bartenders Union, the largest union here in the state of Nevada. We train thousands of people a year for careers as professional cooks, as food servers, as bartenders, as guest room attendants. What happens in Nevada happens because of the hard work of the people who are trained, in part because of the Culinary Academy of Las Vegas.
I came out today to show my support for Vice President Biden and for President Barack Obama, to support them, to give him both of them 4 more years, and to just show them how much I adore them, support them, and love them.
My name is Jennifer Nielsen, and by profession I'm an aid worker. I've spent the last 2 years working on human rights issues in South Sudan. But I had to come back to my country to help support President Obama, and now I'm a full-time volunteer on the campaign for the last 2 months because I believe in this man and I believe in Vice President Biden so much. I think that what they're doing for women and what they're doing for healthcare in this country is so important. There's no way that any American can't support them and do everything that we can to get them reelected, especially those of us who are young and those of us who care about the world and care about equal access and equal opportunity.
What type of aid work are you doing in Africa? What are you mostly doing? Are you working with an NGO?
I was working with an NGO before I quit to come do this.
Wow.
And we did all kinds of things. We provided food for people, for refugees and internally displaced people from the civil war in South Sudan. We worked on education programs, protection. We did things with gender and market economics. We did all kinds of projects with health, nutrition, basically everything you could throw at the problem.
My name is I'm 16. I support Obama in his campaign because I think he has a better plan than Romney.
Why did I come out? Because I'm 79, and if Mr. Romney gets in, I'm going to be living in the dumpster behind my house.
Fired up? Yeah! Ready to go? Yeah! It is great to see such a wonderful crowd out here this morning at the Culinary Academy of Las Vegas. And to welcome Vice President Joe Biden back to Las Vegas.
Look, how can you solve a problem if you don't acknowledge what caused the problem? How can you do that? And ladies and gentlemen, what caused the problem is letting Wall Street write their own rules, turning over the keys to the kingdom to the banks. Let them write their own rules. And these massive taxes. The last time we did that, we've seen this movie before. That's right. The last time we did that, it resulted in the slowest job growth since World War II. It doubled the national debt, and it left you, the American people, with a $16 trillion hole in your wealth. No state has been hit any harder than yours on mortgage foreclosures. But all of you out there who didn't have any funny mortgages, all of you who never missed a mortgage payment, all of you who did it by the numbers, one day you woke up and you found out because 2 folks on the block had foreclosed, all of a sudden you thought you had $250,000 equity in your home, and you found you had $50,000. The very thing you planned on, to be able to borrow against to send your kid to school, the very thing you planned on to be able to have a decent retirement so you wouldn't have to rely upon your children. You saw your pension plans be eviscerated. Ladies and gentlemen, we're not going back to that. No. We're not going back to that. Let me sum this up. Let me get out of your hair here by saying, look, folks, as I've said it before, we have a fundamentally different vision, fundamentally different value. And there's no place it is more starkly seen than in how Romney and Ryan view the American people. Right. No, this is for real now. This is, I mean, you know, we can use it as a campaign slogan, but think about what they really, they're not bad men, they're decent men, they're good fathers, they're good husbands. But I don't understand how they believe, and they do believe. Ryan has written a book called The Young Guns with 2 other fellas, members of the House. No, these are the Republican leaders in the House. You had, unfortunately, the bullets are aimed at you. Here's what what happened? These guys talk, they use phrases like, I've never heard them before from a Republic, about we are a culture of dependency. That they divide the country. There's a speech that Congressman Ryan made in Washington to a group sponsored by the American Spectator, where he talked about makers and takers. We're made up of makers and takers. He said 30% of the American people are takers. And that famous, that, you know, out of the, you know, sometimes, you know, it's what you do when you don't think people are watching that matters. Well, Governor Romney didn't think people were watching when he said 40%, 47% of the people are unwilling, and this is the part that bothered me the most. I took offense to. Here's the phrase he used. They're unwilling to take responsibility for their own lives. He actually believes that 47, but think about what that means. Think about what that means. If you really believe half the country is unwilling to take responsibility. Ladies and gentlemen.
That's like believing he washed those dishes.
He you know, he went on to say, it's not my job to worry about those people. Well, folks, the American people should worry about them. Because they do not understand the country, at least the one I live in. When they talk about that 47%, they were talking about my mom and dad who broke their neck their whole life, worked like hell. My mom and dad, and many of you are part of that 82% of those 47. Over 82% of them, they pay their payroll taxes, they pay their property tax, they pay at an effective rate higher than Romney pays his federal taxes. They're also made up. 10% of those people are seniors who worked their whole life, paid for their Social Security, and now have nothing else to live on it, so they're not paying taxes on it. They're the other 47%, the rest of it. And then, the remainder of those people, this is factual, the remainder of those people are disabled veterans and the 68,000 warriors we have in Afghanistan right now defending the United States of America. Because guess what? They're not paying any taxes on their income, nor should they pay any taxes on their income. I'd be remiss if I didn't acknowledge at this time, which I try to do all the time. Having been in and out of Afghanistan and Iraq over 20 times, my son having served a year in Iraq, I want to tell you something, man. The sacrifices. How many of you know someone who served in Iraq or Iran? How many of you know someone who has been injured or lost in Iraq or Iran? Well, let me tell you something. We owe these families more than we can ever pay them. Ladies and gentlemen, so far, you know, when you're in the theater in Iraq or Afghanistan, the vets can tell you this if you're there. When the military talks about someone who's been killed, they refer to them as a fallen angel. And more than one occasion, flying in and out of Iraq, I have had a colonel say to me, he does not need my permission. Permission to board a fallen angel, Mr. Vice President, because they strapped them in the center of that C-17 to take them home to a family waiting for them. It turns that a C-17 from an aircraft to a cathedral. And those families have, we can never repay them. There's 50,010, I check every single day. Exact number, 50,010 wounded. Coming home. Look, folks, we only have one truly sacred obligation. We have obligations to the elderly, to our children, to the environment. We only have one truly sacred obligation. And that's to equip those who we send to war and care for them when they come home from war. Ladies and gentlemen, These guys and women, they represent the spirit of America. This generation, post 9/11 generation, has done more than any generation. They've had over 2 million of them. Strap on those boots and walk across the sands and the deserts in Iraq or the mountains of Afghanistan. They have stood up. They've been deployed more than once. They represent what the American people are about. They are who we are. That's the generation coming up. They are not takers. They are makers. They are the people who give. The American people are so much better, so much stronger, so much more responsible than these guys give them credit for. I have never seen two candidates for high office more negative about the state of America, more negative about our prospects, and more negative about the responsibility the American people are willing to take. All their talk about culture dependency, American decline. I got news for them. We are not in decline. This is not a dependent nation. And I got one more piece of news for my friends. It's never, never, never been a good bet to bet against the American people. And with your help, we will come back. We will win. We win Nevada. We win the election. God bless you all, and may God protect our troops. Go get them. Go get them.
Thanks for the veterans. Thank you, guys. Thanks, guys.